There's hydrogen and helium, then lithium, beryllium, boron, carbon everywhere, nitrogen all through the air with oxygen so you can breathe, and fluorine for your pretty teeth, neon to light up the sign, sodium for salty times.
Good morning. Welcome back to science class, where we have been talking about sound. Now then, do you ever stop to consider just how lucky you are to live in the time that you do? If you have your TV or your tablet or your computer or your phone or whatever, and you can get amazing sounds from all over the world. But it didn't used to be that way. If you go back in time just 150 years, if you wanted to hear something, you had to be there in the room where it was happening. If you wanted to go to a concert, if you wanted to hear some music from a band that was playing, you had to go see that band. If you wanted to hear somebody important speaking, you had to go and listen to that person. There was no way to share those sounds with anybody else. Speaking of sounds, that is an airplane flying over me again and being very rude. Okay. There's no way to share those sounds. There's no way to save them. But of course now, in our time we have YouTube and all these other things, we don't even think about it. People send me stuff on WhatsApp all the time. People call me up, they send me little video recordings or voice recordings or whatever. You don't even think about it. But it used to be a big deal. So nowadays, everybody has this thing in their pocket that they can record any sound they want with. But what did you used to have to use? Well, if you wanted to record sound, you had to use something like this. That is called a phonograph. A phonograph. It comes from two words, phono, meaning sound, and graph, which means write. Phonograph was writing with sound. What would happen on these big machines is that you would speak or play something into that big old bell-looking thing, and then a needle would scratch out that sound on on one of these cylinders, one of these round things. Then you could play it back. Now, the sounds that it made were not very clear. What I'm going to play for you right now is a recording of the very first sound human's voice ever made. This dates back to the late 1800s, the very first recording of a human voice ever made. And you're going to be amazed how clear it is not. It sounded like this. Isn't that awful? But that's what people had back then. As technology got better, they turned to things like this. You ever seen one of these before? That's called a record. Again, as things are recorded, a little needle would scratch out markings on that record, and then you would stick it in your phonograph record player, and it would play the same sounds. Now, the sounds weren't quite as good, again, but they were better than what we had before. Here's what they sounded with the phonograph record player. As you can see, sound recording has come a long way. And especially the way that we hear the sound through these machines. It used to be that if you wanted to hear the sound, you only have that one little bell for the sound to come out of. That's called Monaural Sound. That's out of, again, two words, mono, which means one, and aural, which means to hear. the sound would come out of just one place, out of that one speaker, and it didn't sound as good because when you and I hear sounds, we have two ears and they're picking up sounds from all over the place. Well, nowadays, almost all speakers are stereophonic, which means the sound can come from two or more places. The speakers in your car, the speakers on your phone. If you have headphones, you may notice as you listen to them, if you pull one of them out, you don't quite hear everything in that one earphone. As you put it out, you should switch them out, you can hear the sounds change. Well, that's because the sound is now coming at you from more than one direction. When the sound just comes at you from one direction, that's called monaural. When it comes at you from more than one direction, it's called stereophonic. Okay? Just about every speaker that you have now is stereophonic. Okay, we don't use monaural anymore. There's really no point. But that's how sound machines have changed over the years. We started with the simple, humble little phonograph, and now we have machines that can make just about any sound that you want to and make it sound like you're sitting right there. So we are lucky to be living in the time that we are and to be able to hear the things that we can hear. Okay, so that's our science lesson for today. Before we go, let's go over our questions. Question number 1, what was the first invention to record sound called? And that was the phonograph, the sound writer, phonograph. Question number 2, what is the name for sound that comes from only one direction? That is monaural. Monaural, which means hearing from one place. And then what is the name for sound that comes from more than one direction? That's called stereophonic. That means sound from more than one direction. Most stereos that you have, they have two speakers, but you can have as many as you want. And that's called stereophonic. Okay, so that's our science lesson for today. We have a test tomorrow. It's not hard. Again, just matching out 5 terms with their definitions. So make sure you study these questions, and I will see you for your test tomorrow. Take care.